Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. I'm your host, Dave Gasper. Lots to get to here on a Monday show. The Brewers' weekend against the Pirates did not go as hoped, as they struggled to a series loss there. But Kyle Harrison puts on a show once again. We'll talk about him and his success this year. Quinn Priester is continuing in his rehab process, had another start in AAA for the Nashville Sounds. We'll talk about that and the potential concerns that are going along with Quinn Priester, and also the concerns about the offense and what the Brewers have not done in quite some time. But just kind of looking overall at this series that the Brewers had against the Pirates. Obviously, starting on Friday night, you had Brandon Woodruff versus Paul Skeens, the highly anticipated pitching matchup. And it's like, okay, Paul Skeens was certainly as advertised. I mean, he had a perfecto through six. Jake Bauers finally broke up all of that with a single to center. But that was all that the Brewers were getting off the Pirates that night. So they end up losing night one. And then night two, you're tied, you go to extra innings. Angel Zerpa struggles again, gives up runs in each of his last three outings now. You give up 3 in extra innings, and then the Brewers end up losing that one. So you go into Sunday potentially getting swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates, by a division rival, by a team that's currently ahead of you in the division standings. But thankfully, the Brewers were able to stave that off. Kyle Harrison was electric for the Brewers, 6 innings, 12 strikeouts. We'll get into that coming up here. The Brewers got the bats going a little bit. They had a 5-run inning, just being able to get the ball into the outfield. They've been hitting the ball on the ground so much over this past stretch. But they finally got some baseballs into the air, got them into the outfield, and they were able to pour on for a 5-run inning. And that was able to last. They get the 5-0 win, first shutout win of the year for the pitching staff, so that's great to see. And you just got to hope that kind of builds some momentum for this group, although they are having an off day today before they welcome in the Arizona Diamondbacks. So a lot of off days early on in the season here, which on the one hand I kind of get because you're still kind of having guys ramp up and everything and get in their midseason form. But at the same time, I'd kind of prefer to see these off days in like July, August, September, like the second half of the season when these guys are kind of really going through it and they probably need those rest days a little bit more. But hey, I mean, this is what the schedule makers do nowadays, that they load up on these off days early on in the season. And that's just kind of how the schedule is going to roll here for the Brewers. So still trying to keep that bullpen in good shape, keep that pitching staff in good shape as we go through here, because they have been used quite a bit in this early part of the season. But I think perhaps things, at least for now, could be evening out on that bullpen front. But it's always tough to lose an in-division series like this when you're at home, when it's such a crowded division. I mean, the Brewers are currently 3.5 games back in the NL Central. As we sit after this game, they are tied with the St. Louis Cardinals for last place at 14-13. The Reds are leading the division at 18-10. So, I mean, it's still close. Everyone's all close together in this division, but when you have those chances against a division opponent, you hate to certainly lose them. But Kyle Harrison was making sure that was not going to be continuing here on Sunday. Kyle Harrison, 6 innings, 1 hit, 12 strikeouts. Just an absolutely phenomenal performance here for him as he just continues his great stretch to start the season. I mean, it is absurd what he's been doing. I mean, this is a guy that the Brewers got from the Boston Red Sox, who just fired their manager and like half of their assistant coaches. Like, it is a very bad situation over there. Seeing the players talking about how they didn't get any answers from their GM, Craig Breslow, or ownership. None of that was satisfactory. And it was just, it is bad over there. But the Brewers, rescuing Kyle Harrison and Shane Drowan and David Hamilton from that situation, they're feeling pretty good about it. Caleb Durbin's probably not. You feel for him. But like on the same day that all that is happening over there in Boston, where they are upset about firing all of their coaches and the clubhouse front office net combination is not good. On that same day, Kyle Harrison shoves for 6 innings, no runs, 1 hit, 1 walk, 12 strikeouts, and he lowers his ERA in the season to 2.28. So it just adds on to it. It just piles on for the Red Sox fans that Kyle Harrison has been that good. And also, too, I saw this stat in there as well for Kyle Harrison. So this is his 5th game as a member of the Milwaukee Brewers. In Brewers history, the most strikeouts through their first 5 games with the franchise by left-handed pitchers, I know this is very specific, but by left-handed pitchers, it is CC Sabathia with 34, Kyle Harrison in second with 30, and then good old Glendon Rush at third with 27. So a lefty in his first 5 games with the team, Kyle Harrison is up there with the great CC Sabathia, the Hall of Famer CC Sabathia, and he surpassed the famously not Hall of Famer Glendon Rush. Still gave the Brewers some good years there. He gave them some time in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, but those were lean years for this organization. But still, it just kind of adds to how good Kyle Harrison has been, because we do remember 2008. Right, we do remember how dominant CC Sabathia was, not only through those first 5 starts, but through all of them that he had with the Brewers. And it's just makes you feel good that the Brewers were able to identify him, bring him in. You get him through the H&H car wash, as Pat Murphy calls it, working with Chris Hook, Jim Henderson, and they have turned someone who has been kind of like a mid-upper 4 ERA type of guy into someone with a sub 2.5 ERA through, again, 5 starts, but he has been really, really good through these 5 starts, and it stands to reason that he's only going to continue to get better. I just really like what I'm seeing from Harrison and what he's providing for this group. Meanwhile, another starting pitcher that the Brewers have that they got from the Boston Red Sox, Quinn Priester, he is continuing to rehab from the thoracic outlet syndrome in his wrist that he was dealing with. Typically for everyone, it's like up in the shoulder and the collarbone. But he had it like in his wrist. It was that same kind of thing, trying to rehab through it. So he shut down, did all the work, and now he's back out to AAA Nashville on rehab assignment. His first time out did not go well, lasted only 2/3 of an inning, hit a guy, walked 3, lasted 29 pitches, and all 4 runs ended up coming around to score. All 4 guys that he put on base, they all came around to score. So that was not good. Did not get the ups that he needed. And this time, he gets built out a little bit more to where the Brewers were wanting him to be. 2 1/3 innings, exactly 45 pitches, which is probably right around where they wanted him to get to in this outing. Did not allow a hit, did not allow a run, which is good. However, he walked 3 again. And of his 45 pitches, only 18 were strikes. So that is concerning that the command is not there for Quinn Priester. In terms of the stuff, the fastball, the sinker, topped out at around 91, 92, which is a few ticks below where it normally is. So the velo hasn't quite been there yet, and the command isn't there yet. So that is something to be concerned with in terms of wanting to get Priester back into the rotation as soon as possible, because just remembering what he did last year, how good Priester can be, you'd like to see him back in that rotation as soon as possible. But the way he's been going, you may have to slow play it a little bit more. You may have to give him some more time and see really where he's at, because that command, it was not very close on a lot of those pitches. And the walks are concerning, the stuff not being all the way back. It's not entirely surprising, but also not entirely comforting either. Now, Brandon Woodruff has talked about this in the past too, where when you're down there in AAA on a rehab assignment, it's not going to be the same, type of environment, type of atmosphere to get you that energy for the extra ticks of velo. I mean, we saw that with Woodruff last year in all of his rehab starts, where the velo wasn't quite there, the velo wasn't there, and Woody's like, look, that's just kind of how it is. Well, like, when you're down in Nashville, pitching in those games on rehab, it is totally different mentally than when you're up in the big leagues. So that could be something where it just simply takes getting back into that big league environment to get that velo back up for him. But even still, the command is a bit more on the concerning side for me, because if you can't throw strikes, if you can't be close enough to the zone with that stuff, if you keep on walking guys, it is not going to be good. You're not going to have any sort of success. And that's where things certainly do get concerning for me. But they still got some time. This is only his second start down there in AAA Nashville, so he's going to be getting a couple more. Once we talk with Pat Murphy on Tuesday here, he'll have the full report, and we'll kind of get his thoughts on what that timeline could be looking like and could be able to update from there. But yeah, it's going to take perhaps a little bit more time for Quinn Priester to be ready to rejoin this Brewers rotation. All right. I wanted to also bring up this because there's also been much talk about the Brewers offense of late, and during these losing streaks that they've had, how inept the offense has been, how bad it's looked at times. And the Brewers offense has not homered in over a week. The last time the Brewers hit a home run was April 18th. We are on 9 days here since Brewers' last homer. It was last Saturday against the Marlins when Bryce Terang homered to center field. That was the last time the Brewers homered. There hasn't been anyone that has gone over the fence since. Bernie Brewer has been up there just kind of waiting to slide, and no one has sent him down. It's not great. It really isn't. I mean, there was talk all offseason about how there's not much power with this group, and they need to do more to get there. However, in the Brewers' defense, I will add this. They are missing 3 of their best power hitters. They have no Christian Yelich in the lineup. They have no Andrew Vaughn in the lineup. They have no Jackson Chourio in the lineup. Those are 3 guys who can give you 20 or 30 home runs probably pretty easily. Chourio can give you 20. I mean, Yelich nearly gave you 30 last year. He's given you plenty more before. Vaughn, he could probably get at least 20 in a full season here, maybe even potentially 30. But you've been without those guys. So that does sap a lot of the power from this lineup. You do still have Bryce Terang. You do have Gary Sanchez. You do have William Contreras. But still, you're missing a lot of the thump from your lineup. And that's why we're seeing a lot of the Greg Joneses of the world in here and the Brandon Lockridges. Like you're seeing a lot more of those guys. And as much as you might like Brandon Lockridge or Greg Jones, I'm not sure if Greg Jones has a huge fan club in Milwaukee, but still, as much as you might like those guys, they're not going to be your big power hitters for this group. It just the depth that you have to replace those guys are just not as good. They don't have the power to be there, which is understandable because if they did have the power, if they were as good, they'd be in the lineup regularly to begin with. So it's tough for the Brewers. It's tough to really kind of judge this team and this lineup right now because, they haven't been performing as well, but they're also, they do have a very valid reason. They do have a very valid excuse. I mean, I know they're not going to want to call it an excuse, but still, it's a very good reason why they haven't been performing perhaps as well, especially, when it comes to home runs, is because they're missing 3 of their top home run hitters. So it's hard to judge too much on Matt Arnold or anyone else in the Brewers organization about the way that this lineup has been performing because they're just missing so many guys from that group. So it puts you in a bad spot to begin with. But by the time the Brewers play again tomorrow night, it'll have been 10 days since they last hit a home run in a game. And that is just too long to go for the stretch. So hopefully they can get it going and they can put an end to that streak on Tuesday night. But they're certainly going to need to hit some more as these games go along. Now, the Brewers' way isn't necessarily reliant on homers, but they're still nice to have. They still help out quite a bit with generating some offense and being able to win ball games. So you'd love to see it, but yeah, it's been 9 days, and by the time they play again, it'll have been the 10th day since they last homered. So they have not done it since the 18th, and they'll next play on the 28th. that's, ooh, boy. So, and also speaking of the 28th, Andrew Vaughn told us over the weekend that he is seeing the doctor. He's seeing his surgeon on the 28th, so on Tuesday here, and that is when he is expecting and hoping to get clearance to return to game action. So once that happens, once Tuesday comes and the doctor says, okay, yep, you're good to go for game action, I would anticipate a rehab assignment for him in AAA Nashville, get him a couple of games, get him a couple of at-bats, and then we could see Vaughn get back to game action here. Same thing with Jackson Chourio. He's been progressing to swinging and facing live pitching, so that is certainly going to be helpful, seeing him back potentially soon, and also likely going on a rehab assignment as well. So we'll keep you updated on that as information becomes available. So be sure to follow me on Twitter at dgasper24, but also especially subscribe here to Brewers Daily. Get notified every single time a new episode drops. And also, check us out on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Drop a review there if you're so inclined. And appreciate you watching. Appreciate you enjoying the podcast here. And we'll see you again next time for another episode of Brewers Daily.